What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about Silent Hill F's combat. Look, we're about a month away. I'm going to be doing more and more videos on this game, and I thought, let's get this one out of the way, but let's have, one kind of final discussion on this combat, I guess until we actually get to play it, right? The controller is in our hands, and we can really feel and discuss, if it's a nice feeling kind of combat style. But want to go over the controversy, want to go over the Souls-like garbage that IGN has kind of plagued, I feel like, gamers with as of late, and talk about even, they were at Gamescom, there was a new trailer, going to be talking about that in future videos, but they did interviews, and in one of the interviews, I believe actually with IGN, the reps from Konami, talked about the combat, and I really liked a lot of their responses, so I want to throw that in this video as well. All right, so number one, let's just kind of get the Souls-like thing out of the way first. It really is true. I think the more, it seems like it's almost a meme, but then IGN leans into it and isn't even kind of aware of doing it, where if a game even remotely looks like it has, I think even the leads of Konami, if it has a stamina bar, that does not mean it's a Souls-like, okay? If there is a dodge mechanic, that also doesn't mean it's a Souls-like. And in the interview, the Gamescom interview, they actually said something kind of towards the middle that I think was actually the most impactful. It's like, this stuff was in past Silent Hill games. And look, that's been said since we first saw the combat of this game. It's like, okay, the actual way that Hinako moves, right? Yes, it is a little foreign to Silent Hill. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it, lines up perfectly. We'll talk about that more, I guess, in a second, because I don't really think any of the combat has flowed perfectly, from game to game, okay? But, you have these systems that, whether they were hidden in some Silent Hill games, or whether, you had focus bars, or you had things that very much are the exact same thing as what you have now, and they talked about that, and they said things like, yeah, just because it has these things doesn't mean it's a certain type of game. I really think that's the IGN and GameSpot and Eurogamer and all these different outlets. It really is becoming a thing. It's not even a joke, okay? If a game has one of those things, it's a Souls-like. I feel like it's maybe an algorithm thing, right? Saying you're a Souls-like game, if you are a game, that I feel boosts you up because so many people have that imprinted on their mind. When you're a journalist, that's one of the first things that you think of as somewhat of a comparable, but it's not really a good comparable, right? So just to say that, but then also to get it out of the way early, they had previously talked about it, it kind of being a Souls-like. I think they did it in the preview around Summer Game Fest time, and then just over this last week, they're almost correcting the record, and they're saying okay, why Silent Hill is not a Souls-like? Well, you're the ones who said that it was, and I don't remember if it was. I think IGN did do it, but maybe it was GameSpot as well. It was a bunch of these outlets around Summer Game Fest that just because of stamina and dodging called it that, and then now they're saying, okay, here's all the reasons why it's not that. Well, you are the ones who said that it was in the first place, and then people went after you hard, and I think almost rightfully so, by the way, and then now you're backing off, and to the point where you have to explain yourself out of it and explain why it's not the thing that you were saying it was 2 months ago. Okay, so that's one element of it. Second element, I'm trying to, by the way, throw this Gamescom preview thing in with the other things I have to say. Let's just talk about the gameplay in general. I've said my opinion on it, but I want to say it again, because again, this really, until we get to review scores, until I get to play and I do my review, this is probably the last time we're going to talk about the gameplay. Maybe in the why I'm getting video, I'll bring it up, but that's kind of it. I've been generally on this game side. Not even generally, let me correct the record. I've been on this game side since day one, okay? I feel like, in my opinion has always been, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to you, and look, and you can have this opinion, this opposite opinion, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Silent Hill has had the greatest combat of all time for its entire life, okay? These games are rough depending on which ones you're talking about. And you're also, sometimes, including myself, we have recency bias, right? And now they seemingly took a lot from 4. They talk about that quite a bit, and not even just at Gamescom. They've talked about that for a long time. The mechanics, the focus / stamina and things like that, that is heavily inspired from 4. Her size and her build and the idea of kind of getting in close and how that feels, that is really based on Heather. And 3, they talked about that as well, right? So it really seems like 3 and 4, but let me also bring up 2, because 2's remake just came out last year, right? When we talk about Silent Hill being back and when we're going to be judging this game and the world is judging this game, I'm sure Silent Hill 2 is going to be brought up because these are back-to-back years, right? Back-to-back games. Silent Hill 2, the original Silent Hill 2, I don't think it's like a good combat system. Now, is it supposed to be like that? Yeah. James is not a trained martial artist. He is out of his element. All of these characters, like so many characters in horror. I guess when you say all of horror, you have to downgrade that first part. Many characters are out of their element in horror stuff. Okay, she is not in her element here, and they talked about that again in the Gamescom thing, where it's like when she has a spear. The reason. And I know like they have that slowdown effect and stuff like that. I know that seems to be one of the major hangups from like the community. And I can understand that. But like why she's like just like swinging around all frantically is simply because she has no idea what she's doing, right? And they talked about like they want it to feel more like survival and less like mastery, right? There's no guns. There's nothing like that. But hand-to-hand combat, this is not a girl that's like a master knife wielder or master spearsman. Like this is a girl that's got no clue what's going on and no clue what she's doing. So when she's swinging these things, they're messy. And that is one of the elements I think has stuck through Silent Hill for so long that I can respect, even though I don't think they've ever been the most like flowy. Like you talk about, okay, do you know how much fun it is to play like the Batman Arkham, like the free flow combat? You're not getting that here, okay? But also like it's very engraved in like who these characters are, and I can respect that mindset, and I can respect giving it to any game that wants to do it. If you pitch me a game and you say, look, it's meant to be this way, like the combat is not going to feel all that great, and it's because these characters are out of their element, I normally, and this is just me, you don't have to, it's your money, it's your time, but for me, I give the game that just because I want to try to give the game what it's attempting to do. Okay, and that's just me personally. So for me, I've always actually enjoyed how the combat has looked. Again, I think the biggest thing has been, well, number one, I think just how different it looks versus the other Silent Hill games. And then also I would say in terms of my own, like when I do my analysis videos and we've broken down or break down the combat before, a lot of the comments that I get is that kind of pausing thing when you're almost doing those charged up moves and you're striking. And I mean, that's a part of this, right? You're kind of building up a meter and then you can kind of unleash like a heavy attack that deals extra damage. That seems to be, again, like the major hang up that I see. And that's just my own circle. I know it's a small circle. I'm sure there's many other people with many other complaints, but I've always been a fan. I would say that far, too, not even just like defending them. I've actually been a fan of how Silent Hill looks. Now, the one extra thing that I want to throw in from the Gamescom stuff is actually, and it was a weird answer, I will say, but they asked them, like, what would you say to, like, longtime fans? And they worded a lot of questions like that, like, what can long-term fans expect with this? What can long-term fans expect from that? They did that, like, 4 different times. But one of the last questions brought an answer of like, well, what would you do like for the combat? Like, what can you expect for the combat? And one of the answers was something like, play it on story mode. Like if you're looking for almost like old-timey Silent Hill feel, play it on story, and then maybe afterwards, go back. And that was something IGN talked about afterwards as well, is like this game is a cyclical game, right? They mentioned that at the end and said it's meant to be played multiple times, which a lot of Silent Hill games are. And the point is, like, you can play it on story mode. You can actually like gain abilities and just gain your own kind of confidence, and then you can play it for Silent Hill. And then you can go back in again and play it on the harder difficulties and play it more in line with like the hardcore gameplay. The way it's worded is almost like if you don't want to focus on this new kind of combat style. Play it where the combat doesn't matter, which is the story mode. If you do want to play like the newfound combat style, then that's how you play on like the harder difficulties. It was a weird response, even from somebody like me that has like defended it, because it really, I think, sends a message where it's like you're not gonna find. And I will say this though. It was an indirect way of saying if you don't like it, it's not really necessarily for you. And I know I maybe used too many words there, but I think they were kind of jumping through hoops as well. Because the thing is, as we've heard with this combat style the last really month in all these interviews, they're looking for new people. And that can be scary, by the way. Like, I'm not always for opening the floodgates and inviting like brand new groups of people into the kingdom. Because, honestly, you have to strike a balance. And I do understand that. Like, I think you always need to make these games for the fans. You need to think about the people that have kept Silent Hill around for decades and through Konami not even being existent really for a good amount of that time. But Silent Hill is also, honestly, a smaller-ish franchise. Like, Silent Hill 2's remake is not out there selling 10, 15, 20 million units. Even, like, say, a Resident Evil is actually the one that can do something like that. Silent Hill is out there selling 1, 2, 3, 4. It's locked. And I think that can be okay, but I can also understand their mindset where they say, hey, we want to do this for people in Silent Hill, but, we also want to try something new. And that's where my defense comes in. It's like, as long as it is Silent Hill in some way, because what really is Silent Hill? You actually could probably have your own definition that might be slightly different than mine. I really don't know, by the way, though, if combat is one of the things that is like the first 2 or 3 things that would come up when I ask you, describe what a Silent Hill game is. Would you describe the literal swinging of weapons, of iron pipes and knives and things like that? Is that one of the first things you would use to describe? And it's not an attack on you versus me or anything. It's simply like, as long as it is Silent Hill, they think it's Silent Hill, we generally think it's Silent Hill, I think you have room to mess with the combat. And that's kind of how I want to leave this video. Like, that's where I'm at. The combat, I feel like, isn't set in stone with this franchise. It probably shouldn't be. We're not dealing with the greatest combat system of all time. This is not a game that's had combat locked down where that is like the number one greatest thing about any one of these games, okay? And because of that, in my opinion, it's not a feature that is like untouchable, right? It's like there's certain things that probably are untouchable when you talk about Silent Hill games. For me, combat's not one of them. I think you can tinker with combat and you might make it worse. That's totally possible. You actually might, it could be a net negative, but honestly, you might find something that works that you didn't really think that would work. And that's also kind of where I'm at, is that Silent Hill 2 Remake, the gameplay, the actual like hand-to-hand stuff, did not really look all that great until you played it. I actually really liked it for what it was. Now, again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you Silent Hill 2 Remake gameplay is amazing. No, it's really good for the style that they were shooting for. That's what I would say about that gameplay. And that's just being like flat out honest. I don't think it's a great gameplay style. I think it's a great gameplay style for what Silent Hill 2 is trying to do. And to be honest with you, it didn't look all that good in trailers and in gameplay videos as we were leading in. Hence a lot of the skepticism on the remake until it came out. And then so many of us were proven wrong because, it's I think for gameplay specifically, by the way, it is harder to judge. I think you can maybe judge tone and you might get some stuff out of the story. Like, you can watch a game and pick up a lot of the cues and the acting and just like the dialogue and stuff. You can make determinations on that. It is hard though with gameplay. Like, some games, the gameplay might hit others harder than somebody else, or some games it's just harder to look at gameplay and judge it versus another person. I might look at it and say, the gameplay looks really good. You might have a lesser opinion. And then both of us might change when we actually play the game. Gameplay is just like that with games, and we were just shown that a year ago, which is why I generally is like, let's not jump the gun. I think to make such definitive statements that like this gameplay looks horrible, I feel like that is jumping the gun, because didn't we just do this, or some of us, didn't we just do this last year leading into 2? I feel like patience is something we probably should have learned, because of a year ago, and some people I feel like didn't. So look, make your own determination. Again, this is the last and really only time I'm going to go this in-depth to the gameplay, okay? But let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.